Thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning is fear, and we're fortunate to have with us to talk about the emotion of fear, Dr. CPoe. Dr. Poe is a psychiatrist, and he is also a minister of the gospel. And of course, Dr. Poe, let me welcome you to the show this morning, and to recall that you are an ordained minister and you are a psychiatrist with a Christian perspective, and I think that if we get that in, we shouldn't have any problems from here on in. But Dr. Poe, we're just delighted to have you here. We've had you on a number of occasions, and each time you bring us such excellent information, and we expect that that will happen today. And what we'd like to do today, Dr. Poe, is to talk about the emotion of fear, and to have you to give our audience some information about it and some of the things that about September the 11th and that kind of information. But before we do that, let's have you to give them at least a little information about your background, your education, and some of the things that were important in terms of leading you to Nashville, Tennessee.
Well, I came to Nashville, Dr. Haynes, in 1956 to attend Tennessee State University. I followed my brother, who had preceded me by 3 years, and finished Tennessee State with a major in biology, and then went on to Meharry in 1960, finished Meharry in 64 with an MD degree, and then did my internship in Chicago, and was in the military in the Army for 2 years, serving in Korea for about 6.5 months. Then I did a residency in psychiatry in Berkeley, California. Then after that I practiced in Berkeley for about 5 years and came back to Nashville in '76. And since that time, actually I was called to the ministry in '77, and since that time I've attempted to practice Christian psychiatry.
Very good. And of course, Dr. Poe, one of the most important events that has happened in recent American history is the September the 11th, 2001 event. And let's talk about it, because I think historians and sociologists and others have talked about what they call a watershed in American history, and that everything will be different from now on, and et cetera. But let's talk about that as an event. Let's have you to talk about that as an event itself.
Well, in terms of fear, I think that was a very traumatic event, a traumatic, emotional, psychological, spiritual event. And I think what it did was it intensified the fear of injury and the fear of death that people have to a certain degree anyway. I think the people who were closest to the tragedy perhaps were impacted in some ways the most. But I think it's important that I say that fear, I think, a high level of fear among many Americans was a problem before September 11th, but I think it became even more of a problem after September 11th.
Now, when we talk about fear, and as a psychiatrist, and you're prepared to analyze fear and accept, I mean, what are some of the elements? I mean, how do you deal with that as an issue to make people understand that you as a psychiatrist can see some things in all of these issues that, and of course because of your training and whatnot, but all of these things that we never thought of. Let's talk about it from that perspective.
Well, first I'd like to say that fear is not just an emotion. Fear is also a feeling, fear is also a condition, and fear is also a spirit. As a matter of fact, if you consult the Bible, we find the reference to the spirit of fear. The spirit of fear actually is another word for the devil. And the spirit of fear, therefore, is another word for the adversary. It's another word for Satan. And so there's a certain mystery about fear. It is a very important emotion. It's one of the primary emotions in my view. And oftentimes it occurs in response to a person being in a situation of threat or danger. The fear response automatically occurs, and I think that in many ways it serves as a kind of a signal, as a kind of a warning to the person, to get the person's attention, to help that person examine their situation.
And so that's the emotion of fear. You say it's spiritual as well as emotional and